Hey guys, welcome back to Homemade Homestead. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Jesse.
And welcome to July's garden tour.
What else? And you wouldn't know it just from the video, but it is stinking hot out here still. It's about 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, and it's still hot.
It's miserable.
We have had wildfire smoke all over the skyline.
Yeah, you can't see it from the picture, but around all the horizon is just covered in this haze. It's been that way all day. But surprisingly, in the middle of all that, we've got our own little miniature paradise. It kind of seems like. Come with us and we'll show you. Are you happy? Are you in a happy place? You ready to go?
Go.
Okay. The start of our garden, we have several rows of tomatoes, and we actually have one Roma tomato growing, which is exciting. We haven't harvested any, and then we have some peas over here that are really looking sad. The heat has just really taken them out, but I don't have the heart to pull them out yet because our 1.5-year-old loves to come over here and just pick them and eat them, and I can't complain about that.
All these little white flowers you can see, and if you don't know, these are chamomile. If you've ever drank chamomile tea, that's what these are. We love being able to pick these, especially some years they've been so plentiful. We just have gotten whole gobs full, and we just let them sit out until they dry, and then we sort of crush them up in our own little tea thing. This make great for your kiddos to pick because it's really hard to mess this up. You just pluck all the little flowers. Some flowers, they're still popping up as volunteers all around. I'm not really sure what's going to come of them. They might just be good for bringing the pollinators this year. I don't know if they're going to make any seeds.
We have some little pear tomatoes starting to form, which is fun to see. These are our kids' favorite, the pears and the little Chadwicks.
A lot of the leaves on here are starting to curl. That's probably due to not as much water as would ideally be, and also it's the extreme heat we've been having. It's just been insane, unseasonable heat. Corn we scaled back quite a bit. Last year, if we had you along, we had this whole section covered in corn. We scaled back quite a bit, but as you can tell, this is coming along quite nicely. I can walk through, it's about, belly height. I've just been recently coming through, pulling off the suckers down underneath. Those are the extra stalks.
So you can see how this is one main stalk. So he's done 2 rows, and then over there, and she's done. Oh, see, she's going to her favorite place in the garden, over there with the peas. It's where she'll spend all her time. Oh, did you pick one? You got a pea. Good job.
So the thing about, speaking of those suckers, you can tell on a corn stalk like this is obviously the main stalk. It's the biggest, thickest, most healthy looking one. But then you got all these little ones that are hanging on the side. So I just come along. They usually pull off pretty easily. Doesn't hurt the plant any. And you're left with one main, much healthier plant that can get all the nutrients and grow and actually produce the corn that you can eat. Anyway.
So will the other ones not produce corn?
I think I've seen a couple that have gotten to full maturity, and there's been one sucker that maybe got missed earlier on, and it may have produced something, but that was just one sucker that may have gotten missed. I don't think all of these would have produced on one plant.
And we have 2 beautiful tomatillo plants. If you're not familiar with tomatillo plants, you have to have at least 2 for them to pollinate, and they are covered in blossoms. So I am so excited for these. I only grow them every few years because they're usually just so prolific. Put on a ton. So we have 2 of those, and they have really bushed out. I ignore the grass behind because, you know, this is real life, lots of weeds. And then right next to it we have a bunch of peppers, and they have kind of come back because they were stunted. We had a really cold night, we froze late, and so they kind of stunted them. This was our bell pepper patch, and they are coming back, so I'm excited about that. And then over here is our jalapeno patch, and these ones actually look pretty good. We've only lost maybe 3 or 4 plants out of all these plants. And the tomato cages aren't really helpful. They're just there to deter little ones from trying to squish the plants. So that's why we have those on.
So these poor things are our green beans. they're coming along. They're continually growing. They're sending out tendrils and everything, hopefully to try to grab onto this fence. But they started to come up really nice, but then they all turned really yellow. And as you might be able to tell on some of these things, they look like they've, yeah, look at that. Some of these leaves are just crumbling right in my hand. They're burned. I don't know if that's the heat or if they're lacking something or if there's an overabundance of something, but we need to figure out what's going on with these green beans. But this looks like it could be a very promising patch if they were able to revive and not just totally shrivel up. If any of you guys have more expertise in growing green beans, please let us know down in the comment section below. We would love to hear your feedback. And we would love to see these things come to fruition. So if you guys know anything about it, please let us know down in the comments.
Some peas. Do you want one?
No.
You want to eat one? They're getting a little bitter. Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. You got it. Well, here's the other one right here. Right there. So right over here we have 4 mounds of butternut squash. And they are looking beautiful. They're growing out. We do have to start watching for squash bugs. We have found some squash bug eggs that if you haven't seen them before, they're just like these little red dots on the back of your leaves. They'll turn into adult squash plant or bugs, and they will annihilate your plant so quickly. So we are watching those, but these are looking great. And then we have some volunteer sunflowers. And then we actually got to harvest our first yellow zucchini plant, or yellow zucchini. And these plants are just looking beautiful. I'm so tickled with it. Such a blessing. You can see there's a bunch of them growing. Oodles and oodles. And we actually have 2 mounds of these, just the green zucchini, and we have harvested one of these as well. And I just try to look for the bugs. Oh, here we go. Do you see these? These are the eggs of squash bugs. And all you have to do is flick them off. I just rub my finger on them and that's it. And they won't be able to survive. So since I found those, I asked our oldest, he is 8, he has really good eyes. He usually finds them before I do. And he's going around to each leaf. Did you find some more? Look at them, they just hide, look at that, right in that little corner. Look at that. Wow, way to go, bud. Great job.
There's another batch right there.
Oh my goodness. You might need a stick maybe and poke down in that corner. Wow. They really like to hide, but if you stay on top of it, this is really the best way to protect your squash plants. And then we have 6 mounds of watermelon, and they are looking pretty good. There's some that are a little bit more yellow than the others.
Yeah.
But they are growing. We have 4 mounds of these, and they're blossoming. So hopefully we'll have some cantaloupe this year. I love cantaloupe.
These are our cucumbers. We're just so tickled about these things. We've never been able to get them to grow. Rachel found an awesome way to do these things, though. I think she got the idea from Roots and Refuge. This year, she tried starting the cucumber plants indoors as starts first, rather than just planting the seed in the bare ground, and they're doing awesome. Look at these things. They're even sending out tendrils. I'm quite confident, see, like right here, they're already starting to grab onto this fence. We may actually get cucumbers this year. I'm just so excited. We've never had any kind of cucumbers come up.
Blowing up.
So
There were 6 groups on this thing. No, 7.
okay. So did you check these 2 right here?
No. I
Okay.
have these 2 left.
Would you mind just scanning them?
Yeah, sure.
So over here we have our greens. Now with this heat, some of them have started to bolt, but there's some that still look really beautiful. Like we have some kale right here. We have a bunch of different lettuces, red cabbage, Swiss chard, more kale. You can tell by the lettuce when it goes really high and it starts to put on flowers. That is what it means when it goes to seed. Those flowers will turn into the seed, and you can actually harvest that seed and plant it again for fall lettuce, which is what I'm planning on doing because it's just too hot and it's starting to get a little bit bitter. But I'm really excited about all the greens and how well they did this year.
All right, that brings us to what I used to consider the little bit more unseemly part of our garden, the less pleasant to look at least used to be the case. These are where we planted all of our potatoes, and for the longest time, this place was just covered in weeds. A lot of them were up as tall as I am, and it was just covering this place. You had a hard time finding anything in here, but we hit this whole area really hard over the course of, I think collectively, probably a week solid we spent out here in the cool hours of the day, just going hard at the weeds. Rachel was super sweet and came in after the fact and just mulched it all over with hay, provide a good ground cover to try to keep the water in and keep those weeds down. And now you can actually see all of our rows of potatoes. They're still surviving, which is a super big praise. Cabbages back along the fence line. So we have some tarp that we're going to put down in this trench to hopefully stifle out those weeds for good and just keep a good, presentable, manageable garden space back in this corner of our property.
So right here, I still have not finished our weeding project. Right under here is actually our beets. Some of them are red beets and some of them are golden beets. And I don't know how well they're gonna do actually this year. With this heat, they're not looking the best, honestly. But you know, I'll weed them and we'll give them our best shot. And then Jesse actually has been working amazingly hard on the onions. The onions have been weeded and the garlic has been weeded. And we have mulched all in here as well. We have a few potatoes left over on this side of the garden. And then all of our broccoli is back here as well. And it's looking pretty good. And sadly, we're getting to the bottom of our mulch pile, but hopefully we'll get more. We're hopeful for straw in the fall. She's still going at it with those peas. Isn't that just so cute?
Where'd your other shoe go, little lady?
And this is one more potato patch. The potatoes are kind of scattered all over, but they are looking pretty good. They have already flowered and some of them are already starting to die back. So we should be able to harvest some of these potatoes soon. And they are the red Pontiac potatoes. We really like those ones. So we finished off our orchard area last year with a few more apple trees, a plum tree, and obviously those are really small still.
And that's a plum tree.
You got it in the almond tree, huh? So those don't have any fruit on it this year, but we have been pleasantly surprised at what trees actually have some fruit on them.
Yeah, we're getting fruit.
Yay! So let's show you which trees those are.
Now that the pears are getting a little bit bigger, I didn't realize before how many pears there were actually on this tree. These things, this tree is loaded, it looks like. We got 1, 2, 3, at least a dozen pears that I can see. They're really producing. Look at these things. So pleasantly surprised. They're coming along right nicely. This is our one pear tree, but we also have another, and it's also producing. It looks like it's a little bit more bare. Maybe I pruned this one a little bit later last year. But look, the important part is the fruit.
Yeah, you still
They're
have
just
some.
Coming on everywhere. It's getting to be the season. We may actually get to eat some of these things. This peach tree, I remember taking care of this thing, trying to wrap it last year for another video. If you haven't seen that, be sure to go check that out. We wrap our tree in the climate that we live in the zone. It gets super cold, and this is how we preserve our our peach tree in the wintertime, is to wrap it. I held off a little too late unwrapping the thing after the seasons changed this year, and when I took the paper and foil off, all the water that had gotten trapped on the trunk unfortunately just sort of made that bark all soggy, and it looked like, well, you can tell where some of the bark just looks really scabby. I was really kind of worried for the life of the tree. I wasn't sure if it was going to survive just because I'd left it on there for so long. But it looks to have bounced back all right. It still looks a little scabby down here. But as you can tell, I would think if it was in super danger, any big danger, it would be reflected in the leaves. And these still look just as lush as can be. No fruit yet, but it's alive and thriving.
So this is our Honeycrisp apple, which is one of our absolute favorite apples. And we only have one tree on the property, but it has quite a bit of fruit all over it.
Yeah, Mom,
So there's maybe a dozen or so, which isn't bad. This tree is about 5 years old, and we have about 3 or 4 gala apples, so that'll be a nice treat. we kind of freeze late, and so sometimes it'll freeze the blossom. It's always hit or miss if we get fruit on our fruit trees yet. But this is the first year we were really hopeful.
The last tree that we're going to talk about is our almond tree. We visited a guy that had an almond tree, and he was actually picking almonds off of his tree not too far from where we live. I didn't know we could grow almonds, and I didn't know if this was going to produce. I was just looking at it as a nice shade tree, if nothing else. But this year, look at this thing. I think those are almonds. And this tree has these things all over the place. All over the place. We've never harvested almonds before, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of research, but if these things produce, that would just be the coolest thing ever if we got almonds that we were able to pick off of our own almond tree. So that's super exciting.
Do you like picking squash bugs off of the plants?
A little.
Yeah?
I like to find the eggs.
Yeah, it's kind of like a treasure hunt, huh?
I think that about does it for our July 2021 garden tour. Honestly, I don't know how anything is thriving in our garden as well as it is with as little water as we had this year. It's just been super hot. Father has been good, and somehow this garden is continuing to grow and look amazing despite all that. He seems to provide the water just exactly the right time when it needs it the most. Continue to pray for rain.
Well, thank you guys for coming along with us and sticking with us through our absences here on our channel, because life is a little crazy right now. Yeah, before you know it, this baby's gonna get here, which is kind of crazy. So. So I appreciate each one of you still sticking with us and watching us, or we appreciate each one of you. Oh, is there a bug trying to get you?
No, there's a fly in my eye.
Oh no. Oh, thank you guys for sticking around with us. I hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Take it easy.